Most people think low energy, stubborn weight, cravings, bloating, and foggy thinking are just aging or stress. They assume it's normal to wake up tired, crave sugar to push through the day, and carry inflammation around the belly. But let me be absolutely clear, these symptoms are not random, and they are not inevitable. They are signs of a gut in distress. When the gut lining becomes damaged by modern diets, chronic stress, antibiotics, acid-blocking drugs, artificial sweeteners, and environmental toxins, the microbiome shifts away from friendly microbes toward inflammatory ones. This triggers leaky gut, immune activation, and metabolic dysfunction. Your mitochondria, your energy factories, cannot function efficiently in a sea of inflammation. Hormones are disrupted, blood sugar becomes unstable, cravings surge, and the body begins to store fat instead of burn it. This is not a trend, not a detox gimmick, not wellness fluff. This is physiology. The gut sits at the center of your immune system, your metabolic control, your nervous system, and your detox pathways. When it breaks down, everything downstream suffers. But here's the empowering truth: the gut also has extraordinary capacity to heal, and it happens faster than most people imagine. With the right inputs, your gut lining can begin to repair within days. In 14 days, you can lower inflammation, calm the immune system, restore digestive enzyme function, rebalance microbes, and dramatically improve energy and mental clarity. Today, we are going to walk through exactly how to do that: the science, the foods, and the daily habits that rebuild the gut from the inside out. Because when you heal the gut, you do not just fix digestion, you switch on fat burning, lift brain fog, strengthen immunity, and restore true metabolic vitality. The gut is not simply a digestive tube, it is the command center for immune regulation, metabolic programming, and inflammation control. Inside the gut, we have a single cell, thick barrier separating the external world food, microbes, toxins from the internal bloodstream. This lining functions as the body's immune firewall. When intact, it allows nutrients through while blocking pathogens, bacterial fragments, and chemicals. When compromised, we develop what research calls increased intestinal permeability, often known as leaky gut. At that moment, the immune system shifts from calm surveillance to chronic defensive warfare. The brain, the hormonal system, the mitochondria, the fat burning pathways all feel the strain of that constant alarm. Leaky gut is not mysterious. It has clear biological mechanisms. Modern processed food, sugar, gluten proteins, alcohol, seed oils, pesticides, and emulsifiers physically erode tight junctions between gut cells. Stress increases cortisol, which thins the gut lining. Antibiotics, proton pump inhibitors, and artificial sweeteners disrupt microbial diversity, allowing harmful bacteria to dominate. These bacteria produce endotoxins, inflammatory molecules such as lipopolysaccharides. When the gut barrier weakens, endotoxins cross into the bloodstream. They activate immune cells, triggering cytokines that promote systemic inflammation. This immune overactivation burns through nutrients, generates oxidative stress, and increases free radical damage. The burden on the body becomes relentless, and symptoms follow: fatigue, joint pain, stubborn weight gain, poor concentration, food sensitivities, hormonal imbalance, and low mood. The mitochondria, your energy powerhouses, are especially vulnerable. They are exquisitely sensitive to inflammatory cytokines and oxidative stress. When inflammation is high, mitochondrial function down, regulates to protect cells from damage, but this means your energy output drops. People feel this as morning exhaustion, mid-afternoon crashes, weak exercise tolerance, and cravings for stimulants. The body begins hoarding energy instead of burning it, favoring fat storage over fat oxidation. Hormones like insulin and leptin lose sensitivity. Thyroid hormones struggle to convert to their active form. All of this is rooted not in a lack of willpower or discipline, but in a physiology fighting a constant internal battle because the gut barrier has been breached. We must also consider nutrient absorption. The gut is not just where you digest food. It is where you extract the raw materials to repair tissue, build neurotransmitters, detoxify waste, power mitochondria, and balance hormones. If the gut is inflamed, digestive enzymes malfunction, bile flow becomes impaired, and the microbiome loses its diversity and metabolic capability. Even if you eat nutrient-rich foods, you will not absorb them properly. This is why many people develop iron deficiency, B vitamin in depletion, low magnesium, and impaired fat, soluble nutrients despite eating well. The body cannot heal, energize, or detoxify without adequate nutrient delivery, and gut dysfunction blocks that foundational supply chain. Chronic gut-driven inflammation also impacts metabolic signaling. When endotoxins circulate, the immune system prioritizes defense, not fat burning. The inflammatory cytokine TNF-alpha interferes with insulin pathways. Interleukin-6 disrupts mitochondrial energy generation. C-reactive protein rises, indicating persistent immune burden. Adipose tissue around the abdomen becomes inflamed and hormonally active, secreting its own inflammatory molecules. This is why individuals with leaky gut often experience increasing visceral fat even when they reduce calories or exercise more. The body is not in a state of metabolic safety or efficiency, it is protecting itself, and fat storage becomes biologically rational. This inflammation also disrupts neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, many of which are made or regulated in the gut. Low mood, irritability, anxiety, and brain fog are not psychological weaknesses. They are biochemical consequences of immune stress and nutrient malabsorption. When we restore the gut lining and diversify the microbiome, neurotransmitter balance improves, sleep deepens, motivation returns, and mental clarity sharpens. This reflects the intimate communication between the gut and brain, the gut-brain axis, which modern medicine is only now fully recognizing. When people chase weight loss without addressing gut integrity, they often fail because they are working against physiology. When they attempt to boost energy without reducing inflammatory cytokines, they burn out because the mitochondria are still under assault. When they pursue hormone balancing without restoring gut permeability, they struggle because hormones cannot function optimally in a system drowning in inflammation. The gut is the first domino in whole body healing. Once the barrier is restored, immune burden lowers, inflammation resolves, mitochondria re-energize, nutrient absorption increases, and metabolism shifts back toward repair, regeneration, and fat burning. This is not theory, it is cell biology and immunology. When you fix the gut barrier, you remove the biochemical friction holding the body hostage, and health becomes achievable rather than uphill effort. Healing the gut begins with removing the irritants that continuously inflame and damage the intestinal lining, while supplying the body with the raw materials needed to repair tissue, calm the immune system, and nourish beneficial microbes. Food is not simply fuel. It is biochemical information that instructs immunity, metabolism, and mitochondrial energy production. For 14 days, the priority is to simplify inputs, eliminate triggers, and flood the body with nutrient-dense healing compounds. This is not deprivation, it is targeted biological repair. We first remove the substances that drive gut permeability and inflammation. Gluten is top of the list because certain proteins in wheat increase zonulin, a molecule that opens tight junctions between intestinal cells. Artificial sweeteners disrupt microbial balance and have been shown to induce glucose intolerance even without calories. Processed foods contain emulsifiers and stabilizers that erode the gut barrier. Seed oils, rich in omega-6 linoleic acid, fuel oxidative stress and inflammatory eicosanoids. Sugar feeds pathogenic microbes and increases insulin resistance, worsening inflammation and metabolic stiffness. Alcohol irritates the gut lining and impairs microbial diversity. Eliminating these for 2 weeks gives the intestinal wall breathing space to regenerate. Next, we introduce foods that actively repair. Bone broth and slow. Cooked meats provide collagen, glycine, glutamine, and minerals, the building blocks for restoring the mucosal barrier. These amino acids support tight junction proteins and soothe the intestinal lining. Many people underestimate how rapidly the gut can rebuild when given these compounds daily. Wild, caught omega-3 fish such as salmon, sardines, and mackerel provide EPA and DHA, which actively resolve inflammation and help balance immune activity. They also stabilize cell membranes, assisting mitochondrial function by improving membrane fluidity and energy transfer. This is mitochondria nutrition, not trend-based eating. Fermented vegetables like sauerkraut, kimchi, and fermented beetroot deliver natural probiotics and postbiotics signaling molecules that reduce inflammation and support mucosal immunity. Unlike store-bought probiotic capsules, these foods offer microbial diversity and metabolic byproducts crucial for gut barrier integrity. Alongside these, prebiotic fibers are essential. Asparagus, garlic, onions, leeks, radish, artichokes, and green bananas supply resistant starches and inulin fibers that feed beneficial bacteria. When good microbes ferment fiber, they produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which strengthen gut cells, support immune tolerance, and improve insulin sensitivity. Butyrate is also a direct mitochondrial fuel, meaning fiber fermentation boosts energy production at the cellular level. Vegetables rich in polyphenols bring another layer of healing. Berries, leafy greens, herbs, brightly colored vegetables, and cruciferous plants deliver flavonoids and antioxidants that neutralize free radicals and modulate the immune system. Polyphenols act as prebiotics and also support detoxification pathways in the liver. Turmeric and ginger combine anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects, inhibiting NFB, a master switch that controls inflammatory gene expression. Daily inclusion of these herbs has measurable effects on inflammatory markers and gut comfort. Slow, carb-resistant starches from cooked and cooled potatoes, green plantains, lentils, and oats, if tolerated, provide a gentle microbiome, supportive carbohydrate source without blood sugar spikes. This stabilizes insulin and supports the gut lining without feeding yeast or harmful bacteria. These resistant starches increase butyrate production significantly, making them metabolic medicine. They also help regulate appetite hormones like GLP-1, improving satiety and reducing cravings, which is critical during early gut repair when the body is shifting metabolic gears. Protein remains foundational because amino acids fuel tissue regeneration, enzyme production, detoxification pathways, and immune function. Pastured eggs, poultry, grass-fed meat, and wild fish provide complete protein with essential micronutrients like B vitamins, zinc, selenium, and carnitine, all vital for mitochondrial activation and metabolic repair. Healthy fats from olives, avocado, coconut, nuts, and seeds help lower inflammation, stabilize blood sugar, and repair cell membranes. These fats supply energy without feeding pathogenic microbes, providing metabolic calm and consistent mitochondrial fuel. During this 14-day reset, vegetables fill half the plate at each meal to supply fiber, minerals, polyphenols, and hydration. Protein covers a palm-sized portion, and healthy fats are used generously to maintain satiety and reduce reliance on glucose for energy. Meals become nutrient-dense and anti-inflammatory, reducing digestive stress and shifting the microbiome environment toward beneficial species. Hydration from mineral water and herbal teas supports mucus layer integrity and assists detoxification. Avoiding grazing and allowing gaps between meals encourages digestive enzyme reset and improves motility. Each food choice serves a strategic purpose, sealing the gut barrier, reducing cytokine signaling, feeding beneficial microbes, restoring mitochondrial efficiency, and lowering oxidative stress. When the gut receives what it needs and inflammatory triggers are removed, the microbiome rebalances, cravings diminish, digestion becomes comfortable, and energy begins to lift. This 2-week nutritional protocol acts as the foundation on which deeper metabolic healing can take place. Without this reset, supplements and advanced strategies simply do not work as effectively, because they are trying to operate in a hostile biochemical environment. With the gut calm, inflammation down, and mitochondria supported, the body shifts back to growth, repair, and fat burning physiology, the state in which real healing becomes possible. The microbiome is not a passive passenger within the body. It is a metabolic and immunological organ in its own right. Our gut bacteria train the immune system, regulate inflammation, produce neurotransmitters, and participate directly in energy metabolism. When this ecosystem is diverse and balanced, it promotes immune tolerance, efficient digestion, stable blood sugar, and metabolic flexibility. When it becomes imbalanced, a state called dysbiosis, inflammatory microbes proliferate, beneficial species decline, and the gut lining weakens. Dysbiosis leads to overproduction of endotoxins, reduced production of anti-inflammatory metabolites, and disruption of hormonal and mitochondrial signaling. People feel this shift not as a microbiology problem, but as cravings, bloat, weight gain, mood instability, sluggish metabolism, and immune vulnerability. The core biochemical currency of a healthy microbiome is the production of short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, acetate, and propionate. These compounds are generated when beneficial bacteria ferment dietary fibers and resistant starches. Butyrate serves as the primary fuel source for colonocytes, the cells lining the large intestine, in allowing them to regenerate and maintain tight junction integrity. When butyrate levels are high, tight junction proteins strengthen, preventing endotox in leakage and suppressing inflammatory cytokine release. Butyrate also activates regulatory T cells, which calm immune overactivation and promote immune tolerance. This reduces autoimmune risk and systemic inflammation. In addition, butyrate signals through G protein coupled receptors to improve insulin sensitivity, reduce visceral fat accumulation, and enhance mitochondrial efficiency. Fiber is not roughage, it is metabolic programming for the gut immune, mitochondrial axis. When fiber fermentation is insufficient due to a low fiber diet or dysbiosis, short-chain fatty acid production falls, colonocytes starve, and the gut barrier becomes porous. Endotoxins enter circulation, activating toll, like receptors on immune cells and triggering a systemic inflammatory response. This cytokine activation blunts leptin and insulin signaling, contributing to weight gain and metabolic rigidity. Individuals experience difficulty losing weight even with calorie restriction because the body is prioritizing defense and fuel conservation. The mitochondria sense inflammatory stress and down-regulate ATP production to reduce oxidative damage, leading to fatigue and reduced metabolic output. Restoring microbial diversity reverses this energetic braking system. Mitochondria resume efficient ATP production, and metabolic rate increases naturally. The microbiome also influences appetite and satiety hormones. Beneficial bacteria increase GLP-1 and PYY, which promote fullness and stabilize blood sugar. Dysbiosis increases G, ghrelin, the hunger hormone, contributing to cravings and overeating. Many people misinterpret these biochemical signals as a lack of willpower, when in truth their gut bacteria are influencing appetite regulation through hormonal and neural pathways. The vagus nerve, which connects the gut to the brain, transmits microbial metabolites and inflammatory signals. When the gut is inflamed, vagal signaling promotes anxiety, low mood, and cognitive fog. When the microbiome is balanced, serotonin and GABA production increase, supporting calmness and mental clarity. This gut-brain immune axis illustrates why mood, cravings, and energy improve as gut function normalizes. Certain bacterial strains produce metabolites like lactate, acetate, and neurotransmitter precursors that shape metabolic pathways. Beneficial species from the firmicutes and bacteroidetes phyla metabolize complex carbohydrates efficiently and produce anti-inflammatory compounds. In dysbiosis, opportunistic bacteria flourish, metabolizing amino acids to produce ammonia and other toxic byproducts that irritate the gut lining. These shifts alter bile acid metabolism as well. Healthy microbes convert primary bile acids into secondary bile acids that activate FXR and TGR5 receptors, which regulate glucose homeostasis, lipid metabolism, and mitochondrial biogenesis. Impaired bile acid transformation contributes to fat accumulation, poor digestion, and sluggish energy metabolism. Microbiome restoration requires both adding beneficial microbes and feeding them properly. Fermented foods and targeted probiotics can introduce new strains temporarily, but without probiotic fibers and polyphenols to sustain them, they do not colonize effectively. This is why dietary diversity is crucial. Each plant food carries a unique set of fibers that cultivate specific microbial species. A diet limited to the same few foods yields a limited microbiome, whereas rotating vegetables, herbs, resistant starches, and fermented foods encourages broad microbial richness. This biodiversity directly correlates with immune resilience, metabolic stability, and hormonal balance. As microbial communities rebalance, inflammation decreases, insulin sensitivity improves, and the body becomes more capable of switching between fat and glucose for fuel metabolic flexibility. With inflammation lowered and mitochondria no longer suppressed, fat oxidation increases, cravings decline, and energy becomes steady. Hunger hormones stabilize, emotional eating reduces, and individuals find they naturally eat in alignment with true physiological needs rather than compensating for biochemical distress. The principle remains simple: fix the gut, and you restore mitochondrial function. Restore mitochondrial function, and metabolism follows. Weight loss becomes a byproduct of metabolic repair, not the result of restriction. This is why gut rebuilding is the scientific foundation of sustainable fat burning, hormonal balance, and long-term energy resilience. A healthy gut lining is a tightly regulated barrier, one cell thick, protected by mucus, reinforced by tight junction proteins, and supported by a diverse microbiome. When that barrier is intact, it functions like an intelligent border system, allowing nutrients, minerals, and beneficial compounds through while blocking pathogens, toxins, and inflammatory microbial fragments. When the lining becomes damaged, it behaves like a broken border wall, letting harmful particles slip into circulation. The immune system springs into action, sounding alarms and generating inflammatory cytokines to neutralize these invaders. This constant immune activation drains energy, diverts resources away from repair, and keeps the body in a chronic inflammatory state. The result is fatigue, weight gain, hormonal disturbance, and brain fog, not because the body is weak, but because it is overwhelmed by biochemical chaos leaking through the gut. To repair this barrier, we focus on nutrients that directly rebuild intestinal tissue and restore tight junction integrity. Glutamine is the primary fuel source for enterocytes, the cells lining the intestine. It promotes regeneration of the mucosal surface and enhances tight junction protein expression. When glutamine availability increases through diet from bone broth, slow cooked meats, and supplemental forms, if needed, the gut lining begins to thicken and seal. Glycine, abundant in connective tissue and collagen, rich foods, helps regulate immune activity and supports the synthesis of new intestinal cells. Collagen peptides supply proline, hydroxyproline, and glycine, all critical for rebuilding epithelial structure. Taken consistently, these amino acids strengthen the gut barrier and improve its resilience to stress. Zinc plays a critical role in gut lining regeneration, acting as a cofactor for enzymes involved in cell repair and immune modulation. Deficiencies in zinc correlate with increased gut permeability and impaired immune tolerance. Omega-3 fatty acids from wild fish dampen inflammatory pathways, inhibit NFB signaling, and promote the resolution of inflammation, giving the gut space to recover. Polyphenols from berries, herbs, greens, and spices act as antioxidant protectors, scavenging free radicals and supporting beneficial bacteria that produce butyrate, a compound that tightens junctions and lowers inflammation. Vitamin D enhances the function of tight junctions and regulates immune responses within the gut-associated lymphoid tissue, reducing inappropriate immune activation. Rebuilding mucosal integrity also depends on proper mucus layer formation. This protective coating traps pathogens, houses beneficial microbes, and serves as a buffer between the immune system and the external world. Foods rich in gelatin, resistant starches, and specific fibers like those found in asparagus, green bananas, leeks, flaxseed, and chia stimulate mucus production and feed bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids. These fatty acids, especially butyrate, are essential for gut lining repair. They support colonocyte energy production, reduce oxidative stress, and reinforce epithelial cohesion. This is why fiber diversity is not optional, it is biological support for the intestinal wall. As permeability decreases and the gut seals, immune burden falls dramatically. The body no longer needs to pump out cytokines to defend against constant leaks of endotoxins and food particles. Inflammation cools. Oxidative stress drops, mitochondria shift out of defense mode and resume efficient ATP production. Energy stabilizes because the body is no longer devoting fuel to fight chronic immune threats. Hormones begin to normalize, insulin sensitivity improves, cortisol rhythms stabilize, and thyroid hormones convert more efficiently to their active form. People often notice clearer skin, less bloating, more stable mood, and improved sleep as the inflammatory noise quiets and physiological calm returns. A sealed gut transforms metabolism. When nutrients are absorbed effectively, the body receives the building blocks it needs for neurotransmitters, hormones, enzymes, and antioxidant defenses. B vitamins and minerals can now enter circulation to support detoxification and energy production. Iron absorption improves, reducing fatigue. Magnesium uptake enhances muscle and nerve function. Fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K are better utilized, strengthening immunity and cellular repair. This improved nutrient flow allows tissues to heal, immune cells to function efficiently, and mitochondria to power the body rather than merely protect it. Autoimmune activity also decreases. With the gut sealed, fewer foreign antigens escape into the bloodstream, reducing immune confusion and lowering cross-reactivity, where the immune system mistakenly attacks the body's own tissues. This is why gut healing is foundational in autoimmune recovery. It removes the triggers that keep the immune system in attack mode. In the metabolic realm, a sealed gut reduces visceral fat accumulation, restores leptin and insulin sensitivity, and supports fat oxidation. When the immune system is no longer activated by every meal, the body can shift into growth, repair, and regeneration. Gut repair is not cosmetic or secondary. It is central to restoring metabolic efficiency, energy production, and immune intelligence. When the gut lining seals, inflammation drops, mitochondria awaken, nutrient absorption rises, hormones find equilibrium, and the body moves out of chronic defense. Healing the gut is not a wellness trend, it is the fundamental step toward reclaiming metabolic resilience and long-term health. Nearly 70% of the immune system sits in and around the gut, constantly monitoring what enters the body and deciding whether each particle is harmless or dangerous. This is not an accident. The gut is the largest interface between the external environment and the bloodstream. Every meal introduces foreign molecules, microbes, and chemical signals. When the gut lining is intact and the microbiome balanced, the immune system operates with precision, permitting safe passage for nutrients while activating only when true threats appear. When the gut is damaged, the immune system loses this clarity. It becomes hypersensitive, routinely triggered by harmless food particles and bacterial fragments leaking through the barrier. This chronic activation exhausts immune reserves, increases susceptibility to infections, and heightens inflammatory tone in the body. Gut repair restores immune discernment, reducing unnecessary defense reactions while improving readiness against true pathogens. A balanced microbiome produces molecules that directly support immunity. Short-chain fatty acids like butyrate not only fortify the gut lining, but also strengthen regulatory T cells, which govern immune tolerance and prevent autoimmune overreactions. Beneficial bacteria produce antimicrobial peptides that inhibit harmful microbes and reinforce the mucosal defense system. They also synthesize B vitamins and other cofactors necessary for robust immune function. When dysbiosis is present, when harmful bacteria dominate, they produce toxic metabolites that increase inflammatory signaling and weaken antiviral defenses. Individuals in this state often notice frequent colds, slower recovery, and reactivation of latent viruses. As microbial balance returns, immune surveillance improves, and the body becomes better equipped to neutralize pathogens without excessive inflammation. The gut's influence extends directly into the nervous system. The vagus nerve, the primary communication highway between the gut and brain, constantly relays information about gut health, immune activity, and inflammatory status. When the gut is inflamed, vagal signaling promotes stress responses, anxiety, irritability, and difficulty concentrating. Inflammatory cytokines can cross the blood-brain barrier, affecting neurotransmitter metabolism and contributing to low mood and cognitive fog. When gut inflammation subsides, vagal tone improves. A calm gut sends calming signals to the brain, shifting the nervous system out of sympathetic fight or flight mode and into parasympathetic rest, digest, and repair mode. This nervous system shift is essential for healing, metabolism, and weight regulation. The microbiome manufactures a significant percentage of neurotransmitters and their precursors, including serotonin, dopamine, and GABA. Serotonin influences mood, appetite, and sleep. Dopamine supports motivation and reward pathways. GABA promotes relaxation and stress resilience. When dysbiosis disrupts this chemical production, people often experience mood instability, emotional reactivity, sleep disturbance, and difficulty switching off stress physiology. As the microbiome heals, neurotransmitter balance begins to normalize. Individuals often report deeper sleep, steadier mood, improved stress tolerance, and clearer thinking, not because of psychological reframing, but because their neurochemistry is recovering. Gut repair also recalibrates the hypothalamic, pituitary, adrenal axis, the core regulator of stress hormones. Chronic inflammation elevates cortisol and disrupts diurnal rhythm, leading to fatigue, metabolic slowdown, and impaired immune activity. When the gut barrier stops leaking inflammatory triggers, cortisol levels normalize, and the stress response becomes measured rather than exaggerated. People regain the ability to handle pressure without crashing. This nervous system reset is crucial for fat loss because elevated cortisol drives visceral fat storage and disrupts insulin sensitivity. A calm nervous system supports steady blood sugar, improved thyroid function, and more efficient fat metabolism. With inflammation down and immune burden lowered, the body exits the emergency mode that prioritizes survival and shifts into biological states that favor repair, regeneration, and fat oxidation. This is why people do not just feel better emotionally after gut healing, they physically change. Digestive comfort returns, cravings diminish, immune resilience strengthens, muscles recover faster, and metabolism becomes more flexible. Sleep improves because the nervous system is no longer agitated by inflammatory signaling. Deep sleep, in turn, enhances immune memory and mitochondrial efficiency, accelerating health gains. This internal shift can be felt as a lightness, a sense of clarity and calmness, replacing the previous background noise of inflammation and stress. When the body does not constantly fight internal irritants, it can allocate energy to higher repair processes, rebuilding tissues, balancing hormones, detoxifying effectively, and regulating appetite and mood. The result is a physiology that operates in growth and renewal mode, rather than defense and fatigue. Gut repair is not merely a digestive intervention, it is an immune and nervous system reset that turns off the inflammatory stress state and turns on the pathways of healing, energy production, and fat burning. Day 1 of a true gut reset begins not with food, but with rhythm, restoring the biological cues that tell the body you are safe, you can heal. So we start simple. Wake, hydrate with mineral-rich water, a pinch of sea salt, magnesium, rich drops, perhaps fresh lemon because digestion is impossible without electrolytes and cellular energy. Morning sunlight to regulate cortisol, reset the circadian clock, and stimulate mitochondrial ATP. A gentle 10-15 minutes walk or lymphatic movement. Then your eating window begins, ideally a compressed feeding schedule such as 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. because fasting gives the gut a rest to repair mucosal lining and tighten loose junctions. The first meals in this plan are not complicated. They are therapeutic. Bone broth or meat stock rich in glutamine, collagen, and minerals. Fermented foods in tiny amounts, sauerkraut juice, kefir if tolerated. Soft, cooked vegetables like zucchini, carrot, and spinach. Healthy fats to stabilize blood sugar, olive oil, avocado, grass-fed butter, coconut oil for those who tolerate it. Protein from eggs, fish, or slow. Cooked meats to supply amino acids for gut lining and immune cells. Herbal teas, ginger, mint, chamomile to soothe digestion. You are feeding the mitochondria and microbiome, not the addiction circuits that demand sugar and processed starches. Days 2 through 5, we begin to widen the diet while improving detox and drainage. Add resistant starch fibers from cooled potatoes, green bananas, or cooktanned, cooled rice if tolerated. These feed beneficial bacteria and trigger butyrate production fuel for colon cells and a metabolic signal to lower inflammation. Add high polyphenol foods like berries, turmeric, garlic, rosemary, and green tea to quench oxidative stress. Increase movement, gentle strength work, stretching, and daily walks to pump lymph and reduce stagnation. Support stress regulation with slow diaphragmatic breathing before meals to activate the vagus nerve, reduce cortisol spikes, and improve stomach acid release critical for digestion and preventing dysbiosis. Prioritize early sleep bed by 10 p.m. because the glymphatic and gut repair systems operate most efficiently during slow, wave sleep. By day 6, energy stabilizes and cravings diminish. At this stage, introduce more diverse fibers leeks, onions, asparagus, dandelion greens to expand microbial diversity. Continue protein at every meal to maintain metabolic rate and support tissue repair. Hydrate aggressively 2 to 3 liters daily with electrolytes because detoxification and bile flow require water. Avoid snacking. Respect fasting periods so insulin remains low and fat. Burning stays active. For those who can, add a short sauna or hot bath followed by cold exposure. This boosts circulation, mitochondria, and immune function. If bloating appears, Pull back slightly. Gut healing is not linear, and each body has its tolerance threshold. The midday meal remains the largest, a palm-sized portion of protein, a generous plate of vegetables, healthy fats, and fermented foods. Rotate protein sources: fish, lamb, chicken, eggs, because variety supports nutrient density and reduces food-specific immune reactions. Make dinner light, 2 to 3 hours before bed. Soup, steamed vegetables, herbal tea to reduce nighttime digestion load. Continue daily sunlight, ideally morning and late afternoon, because circadian alignment regulates digestion and hormone rhythms. And emphasize tox in reduction. Filter water, store food in glass, avoid seed oils, refined sugars, artificial sweeteners, and processed flours that feed bad microbes and create metabolic chaos. By days 9 through 14, most notice dramatic shifts: flatter abdomen, more stable mood, reduced joint pain, clearer skin, better sleep, and improved bowel regularity. At this stage, intensify probiotic and probiotic timing, fermented foods, or a high-quality probiotic at the first meal, fibers in the second. Maintain intermittent fasting unless underweight or exhausted. Increase natural movement, rebounding, brisk walking, yoga, light resistance training, because muscle is anti-inflammatory and drives glucose into cells without insulin. Practice nightly wind down, no screens an hour before bed, magnesium, journaling or gratitude practice, gentle stretching, nose breathing. These rituals calm the nervous system and reinforce repair mode. This is not starvation, it is nourishment with precision. The gut heals when stress hormones fall, digestion is supported, and immune signals normalize. You notice you are no longer driven by cravings, but by true appetite. The body begins metabolizing fat because it feels safe and supplied, not threatened. And the deeper lesson is simple: you do not starve the body into health. You feed it the correct raw materials and rhythms so it can repair, energize, and thrive.